Welcome back. It must be a Tuesday because I have two videos going up on the channel talking about the happenings around the Ontario Hockey League. Today, the CHL top 10 rankings have been dropped, and we have some news around the Ontario Hockey League that we'll get to. So buckle up. We got a few things to cover, and we'll dive in with the CHL top 10 rankings. There are four teams from the Ontario Hockey League being represented in the CHL top 10, and surprise, surprise, the London Knights back at the top for the OHL for the third consecutive week. They are the top representative from the Ontario Hockey League, coming in at number 2 this week behind the Portland Winterhawks of the Western Hockey League. And for the Knights, they went 2-1 over the last week, and they got some good news. They got Easton Cowan back from the Toronto Maple Leafs, and he made his presence known right away, scoring in that game against the Peterborough Petes, and he also added another goal and 3 assists in the 3 games. So Easton Cowan added to that already very strong London Knights lineup. So London, they're just continuing to get the goals and the wins. Denver Barkey, another player who's really stood out for London over the last 3 games. He's on almost a goal a game pace, 7 goals in 8 games. And then they have a big matchup this Sunday against the Saginaw Spirit. So that's going to be a must-watch game as the two projected top teams from the Western Conference will go head-to-head for the first time, and that game will be at the Dow Event Center. Speaking of the Saginaw Spirit, they're also on the CHL Top 10. They fell to number 7. They had a bit of a rough week. They won their opening game at home against the Flint Firebirds 2-1, and then dropped 2 straight on the road against the Oshawa Generals and Mississauga Steelheads. Also to note, they lost the services of Michael Misa. He took a hard hit from Dylan Rubrick in the game against Oshawa and did not play against Mississauga on Saturday. So I'm sure for Saginaw fans, a little concerned about Michael Misa's health, and we'll have to wait and see if he plays this weekend. I haven't heard any updates as of yet if he's going to play when they travel to Windsor on Saturday or the game against London on Sunday. So we'll have to stay tuned for that because if Saginaw loses Michael Misa, that's going to be a big hit to that offense. Mind you, the Spirit, a really good hockey team. They're still generating that chemistry, and we'll have to wait and see if how they handle the adversity of losing Michael Misa early on in the regular season. Also making the top 10 for the very first time, the Mississauga Steelheads. They come in at number 9. They're right now the first place team in the Ontario Hockey League, good with 14 points, just 1 regulation loss. That also puts them 3 points ahead of London. So I kind of question why Mississauga is 9th on the CHL top 10 ranking, but at least they made the list, right? So the Steelheads, led by Luke Misa, Michael Misa's brother, he had a 5-point game against the Erie Otters on Sunday, just sensational. 3 goals, 2 assists in that game. And also Ryerson Leanders, one of the more underrated goaltenders in the Ontario Hockey League. He is standing tall. His numbers sensational early on. And if Mississauga is going to continue this stretch of wins, they're going to need Leanders continue to have a good showing between the pipes because it's not an easy week for them. They will play 2 games on the road tomorrow night in Sudbury against the Wolves and then Thursday night against the North Bay Battalion before returning home Saturday to take on the red-hot Kitchener Rangers. So this is a big week for Mississauga, and we'll see if the Steelheads can continue to hold on to that top spot and extend their winning streak. Also making the CHL top 10 at number 10, it's the Ottawa 67s. They had a fantastic week. They were on a 3-game road trip through Northern Ontario, and they went a perfect 3-0 with wins in North Bay, Sault Ste. Marie, and Sudbury. They outscored their opponents 10-3. They got some great defense and goaltending. Max Donoso with the shutout of the Sudbury Wolves on Sunday. Also a factor is Luca Pinelli. 3 goals over that road trip, including 2 to open the trip against the North Bay Battalion. And for Ottawa, they return home this weekend with a pair of games. They're going to host the Peterborough Petes, who they're chasing in the East Division, and a rematch with the Sioux Greyhounds. So we'll see if the Ottawa 67s can continue their winning ways. Now, looking at some of the notes from around the Ontario Hockey League, I was making my power rankings video yesterday, so I didn't have a chance to cover this. The Owen Sound Attack, they have moved on from Greg Walters as head coach. A bit of a surprise. Assistant coaches Darren Rumble and Sean Tickle, they'll manage the bench for the time being before any sort of final decision is made. But the Attack, they're off to a good start, 4-2-1. They shut out the Sioux Greyhounds 4-0 on Saturday. But even though they're a favorite in the East, GM Dale DeGray wanting to change the direction of the team a bit here. In his statement, he says, "Our vision for how we best maximize our current roster is not aligned, and I feel it was best for the organization that we make the change." So uh, last year was a bit of a disappointment for the Owen Sound attack. There were a lot of high expectations for the team, but they just weren't met. And then this season, maybe that's I don't even want to say it's a slow start because they're still one of the more competitive teams in the Western Conference. But Dale DeGray making the big decision, and it kind of makes sense. You're doing this early in the regular season. This gives time for the players to adjust to maybe some new sort of systems with the coaching staff, and they can gel and bounce back from what's been decided. The Owen Sound attack, they are playing a 3-3 this weekend, starting with Kitchener. So they're going to hit the ground running, and we'll see what the changes impact the Owen Sound attack. Now for Rumble, he does have a head coaching resume. He's coached in the American Hockey League and most recently in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, where he was the head coach of the Moncton Wildcats. So if the attack, they might maybe lean towards Rumble as taking over as head coach, but we'll have to wait for a final decision on that in the coming weeks. Also of note, the Ontario Hockey League, they have released their suspensions from the brawl, which happened between the Peterborough Petes and the Brantford Bulldogs on Saturday. If you didn't follow that hockey game, it ended up being an overtime win for Peterborough. And after the goal was scored, then everybody had a dance partner. Both teams cleared the benches because the game had ended and resulted in a few suspensions coming out of it. So I'm going to go over the notes here. Out of all that, Connor Smith from the Peterborough Petes, he has been suspended 4 games as a result of his actions after the game. And the Petes, they have been fined $2,000 as a result. And then on the Brantford Bulldogs side, Lucas Moore and Noah Roberts, they have both been suspended 2 games. And the Bulldogs organization, they have received a $1,000 fine. And then also earlier in the hockey game, Cedricson Okitundu, he delivered a cross check, which the OHL viewed as a little vicious. So he's also been suspended 3 games. So for the Bulldogs, who play the London Knights Wednesday night, they're going to be missing 3 regulars from their lineup. So that's Moore, Okitundu, and Robertson. So that's a big hit for this Brantford team that's trying to turn it around. They're right now at the bottom of the Eastern Conference standings. And right now they're going to have to face some adversity over the next few games. Also of note, the Ontario Hockey League announced that they are officially starting their search for a new commissioner. David Branch announced back in the summer that this will be his last season after being commissioner for 45 years. So the league making the statement today saying that they've now officially started the search. And I was curious. There was a link for an application, and I just wanted to see what they were looking for. And to start off, you must have a bachelor's degree. So if you are like, hey, I could run the Ontario Hockey League, I have some great ideas. Well, if you have a bachelor's degree and you've got leadership experience, especially in sports, and you know the Ontario Hockey League well, then you could be the next commissioner. So we'll have to wait and see. But just thought I'd throw that in there because that was announced today. So that's the happenings around the OHL, from the CHL top 10 rankings to the coaching change in Owen Sound, the suspensions for Peterborough and Brantford, and the commissioner search for the Ontario Hockey League. So thanks for tuning in. Put your comments down below, your thoughts on the rankings or any of the news items below. Maybe comments on if you want to be commissioner and what kind of changes you'd make in the Ontario Hockey League. Put that down below. Be sure to hit like and subscribe so you can get further notifications. And we'll talk to you again soon.